Hello anatomy students, this is part 2 of our axial skeleton bone lab. We are focusing on the vertebral column here. So as you can see, here's my skeleton friend here. The vertebral column runs from the base of the skull and then all the way down the back. And it's going to end at this plate-like bone and then finally at our tailbone. So let's take a look at these different regions. So the vertebrae are ring-like bones, and in the center of the ring, as you can see in the model here, there's this steel bar. Well, the steel bar is kind of like our spinal cord. Our spinal cord is not nearly as rigid, but it's going to pass through some holes that are found in the vertebrae themselves, and so the vertebrae are going to form this bony encasement around the spinal cord in order to protect it. And then you can see up here at the base of the skull, the rod is coming out of the foramen magnum of the occipital bone, and this is exactly what happens with our spinal cord. It comes right out of the cranium through that hole. Okay, so we've got three main regions of our vertebral column. The cervical region refers to the area of the neck, and the thoracic region refers to the region that is posterior to our thoracic cavity, and the lumbar region is the lower back. And then our final two bones, the sacrum, is going to form this large plate, and the coccyx, which forms our tailbone. Now there are 7 cervical vertebrae, 12 thoracic vertebrae, 5 lumbar, and then we have the sacrum and the coccyx. And you can remember the number of each type of vertebrae in these regions by remembering breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Of course, food, right? So you eat breakfast at 7, lunch at 12 o'clock noon, and then dinner at 5, relatively speaking, of course. And those numbers refer to the number of vertebrae in each region. We have breakfast at 7 cervical vertebrae. We have lunch at 12 noon. There are 12 thoracic vertebrae to correspond with the 12 ribs on each side that they articulate with. You eat dinner at 5, and that is the number of lumbar vertebrae. And then we have the sacrum and the coccyx. And the sacrum is actually a fusion of about 5 smaller vertebrae, while the coccyx is a fusion of, depending on the person, 3 to 5 tinier vertebrae. And this is remnant of a tail, or similar to the tailbones that would be in your dog or in your cat. And I just want to flip around so that we're looking at now the anterior view of the skeleton. And I just wanted to point out that the anterior portions of these vertebrae, as you start to go more inferior, as you move inferiorly down the vertebral column, the anterior portions, which are called the bodies, of the vertebrae get thicker. Also notice that in between each vertebrae is a pillow made of fibrocartilage that is very strong but very compressible as well. And this is going to act as a shock absorber between the bones, between the vertebrae themselves. These fibrocartilage cushions are called the intervertebral discs. Now, the cervical vertebrae and the thoracic vertebrae and the lumbar vertebrae, for the most part, have the same bony landmarks, and we're going to go over those next. But what we're going to start with are the top 2 vertebrae in the spinal column, the atlas and the axis, because they are a little bit different.